much of Coke's recent growth has been in international markets. I think some people here in the home base think it's just a natural evolution that Coke would be sold around the world. I'm wondering what you think people don't understand about what goes into marketing Coke internationally.
Well, first of all, just on the global piece, 20 years ago, maybe more, Don Keogh, who was then the president of the company, was challenged about the amount of the business was outside the U.S. and in fact, in a negative way. You're sort of deserting the U.S. And he said, it's interesting. He said, 95% of the world's population, more actually, he said, lives outside the United States. I said, I won't be happy till 95% of the business is outside the U.S. And that's what globalization is all about. That's where the opportunities are. So therefore, that's why the emphasis. With Coca-Cola, it's obviously always having the brand relevant to today's world and even to some degree to tomorrow's world. Relevance is part of it. Now that is not just in terms of your marketing and your positioning and your brand message. That's also in terms of the packaging you have. I mean, if you look at the plant bottle where we're using natural ingredients and full biodegradability is the goal, what we do with regard to water, all of those evolving issues being a leader in that as well. Very, very important in terms of continue to build a values-based company. And it is a values-based company today, and it will continue to be so. I think you see, the brand, the name on the building down on North Avenue is the Coca-Cola Company. The name on the bottle is Coca-Cola. So the reputation of the company is absolutely tied in with the reputation of the brand and vice versa. And that is something that maybe people don't always think about and understand, but they're absolutely married to each other. And therefore, you've got to think about both at the same time.
Coke has had to adapt to challenging business environments around the world. You've been on the front lines of that in Russia and the Philippines and India and other places. Are there lessons for the U.S. today on how to create a welcoming business environment from what you've learned overseas and the challenges that you faced?
Oh, good question. Yes, I think there are. And I think it's cultural openness. And I do worry a little about how, and it's not just the U.S., you see it happening in Western Europe. There's been almost a pulling of our heads back into the shell and not being as welcoming. And I include Western Europe because we see it. Let me give you one example. Both in the U.S. and Western Europe, there's been a reduction in the number of foreign students coming in to be educated, for example. Well, I think that's bad because one of the great exports that Western universities have had are leaders to the rest of the world. So if you want to disseminate our message, one of the great ways to do it is to bring people in to live, to experience, to see all the great things, and have bad experiences as well, because that's the reality of it. But to take that away, and yes, some of them become our adversaries because not everyone will get the message in the right way. But there's a huge positive balance. And you look at the CVs of so many world leaders, and you'll see that they've been educated one way or the other in the United States. I undergrad, my main degree was in Cape Town University, but then I came to Harvard Business School. So I learned the American way. And I think that degree of openness is hugely important because the reputational side is important. Now, let me give you an example. I'm Irish. Somehow or other, the Irish have got a reputation for being likable, friendly, argumentative, enjoying a fight, and all of those great things, most of it lubricated by alcohol. But if you think about the way that Ireland and Irish people are perceived, it punches above its weight as a country and as a society. And you go out and you say you're Irish, and people say, "Oh, you're Irish. That's great." That is, to me, where you want to be. You want people to when you say, where you're from, you don't get "Oh, are you? Oh, really?" And that is a micro example of a very big, broader issue.
I think that part of that is the fact that so many Irish people have gone abroad as well. It's not just that they're
Well,
welcoming
that's also true.
to people coming in, but they've made their fortunes
Fair
overseas
point.
as
That's
well.
part of the failure of Ireland because they had to go abroad.
Right. Maybe so. Let's see. How did that play out in the management structure of the Coca-Cola Company, and how is it playing out? As far
Well,
as
you see, the
attracting
Coca-Cola
diversity?
Company management structure is actually United Nations. But it's not by design. No one said we got to have two people from Asia and I mean, not by design. As the global business has grown, yes, there have been Americans who've gone out and been leaders there as well. But in fact, a lot of it's been talent that's been grown through the business. So as people have become successful in the business, I mean, Bhutaj started in, well, actually he did start in Italy. He started on a global thing, but he was in Turkey as region manager. But, Doug Daft had been in Australia. But if you look at the management team today, you've got a United Nations, and it's all because they bubbled up, and that is the sign of being a global company. You need to have those voices around the table. Unless you have that, you're not global. People ask me, well, how do you know you're a global company? And I say, you know you're a global company when you've got all the accents of the world around the management table, and it's not a quota system. It's just naturally it's evolved.
What markets are you most excited about for Coke? I've been to Mongolia recently, and I know there's a bottling plant there. And I've been to China and seen your sponsorship of the World Expo and the expansion plan there. Obviously, emerging markets have become important to the company, but you're in 205 countries, maybe. I'm not sure the exact number. Maybe just a few that aren't.
There's only a couple there.
Yeah, but when you look at that and say we're already in those markets, I guess it turns to an expansion within the markets rather than opening up new markets.
But the opportunities are huge. I mean, I'm out of Coke now. I don't know the exact number for China, but their per capita is probably now around 36 bottles a head. There are other countries at the same level of economic development with 200 per capita. So it's internal growth, but there's also growth going to be in terms of portfolio expansion. So what we're doing with juice, what we're doing with other developments, the acquisitions of the likes of vitamin water. And some of those are not just volumetric, but also their margin. They're higher end with higher margins, so therefore more profitable brands as well. And that'll be where the expansion is.